kufota hande kunovota hatidi vanozokokota kutuka vamwe vasina kuvota rejista kuvota hande kunovota hatidi vanozokokota kutuka vamwe vasina kuvota presenzi nechitupa changu ndetachek ndapinda tonazi monazi ndoda kunyorejesa masalazi maketo yudzi yakamejesa vemushikashika pamusika vari kutengesa kuti ugokwanisa kuvhota paunoda manya kuzekiwo rejesa kuvhota rejesa kuvhota hande kunovhota hatidi vanozokokota kutuka vamwe vasina kuvhota register kuvhota.
Register to vote and stand with other citizens in voting to be the change our country needs. Stand in solidarity with others to bring dignity into the lives of all Zimbabweans. Here is the list of the ZEC provincial officers. Please phone for free on 0808 0219 for more information. In Bulawayo Metropolitan Province, the offices are located at number 16 Centenary Court, Windsor Park Building, 16th Avenue, in Famona, Bulawayo. Harare Metropolitan is at 95 Jason Moyo Avenue, 4th floor Cecil House, in Harare. In Manicaland, they can be found at 1st floor, New Government Complex, corner Robert Mugabe and 4th Street in Mutare. In Mashonaland Central, they are located at 2nd floor, Mutunga Gore Building in Bindura. In Mashonaland East, they are located at number 2, 5th Street, Marondera. In Mashonaland West, the address is 78 Robson Manika Drive in Chinoi. Mashingo can be found at number 10, Hellet Street in Mashingo. And for Midlands, the address is 10th Street, ground floor Government Complex in Gweru. Matabeleland North can be found at 16 Centenary Court, Windsor Park Building, 16th Avenue in Famona, Bulawayo. And Matabeleland South is located at 1194 Big Ben Road, Jahunda in Gwanda. Your vote counts.
Hearty and emotional welcome home for Makomborero Haruziwishe from the MDC Alliance President, Advocate Nelson Chamisa. The world breathed a big sigh of relief when brave and committed human rights activist Mako was freed on bail from Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF's notorious jail. Mako, as he is affectionately called, wrote a letter from jail urging Zimbabweans that the future of the country is in their hands. We are the people we have been waiting for, he wrote, and added, we are many, they are few. When Michael got out of jail, he was full of hope and courage and urged Zimbabweans, we have a lot of work ahead of us. At the age of 29, Marco is an emerging human rights activist who will carry on the struggle well into the future. Jubilant Zimbabwe nation welcomes defiant human rights activist and hero Makomborero Haruziwishe from Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF's Nazi jail. This is Letter from America. It has now become obvious that Mnangagwa's ZANU-PF will do everything to block the MDC alliance led by Advocate Nelson Chamisa from competing in any elections, whether by-elections or national elections next year. The reasons for this act of desperation by Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF are plain for all to see. The tide of public support in Zimbabwe is turning into an avalanche against Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF's authoritarian rule. This is a historical fact. With the possible exception of the 1980 and 1985 general elections, ZANU-PF has not won any elections at all. It explains why they are so manipulative of the elections. If Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF were very confident of winning elections, they would not be taking any measures to suppress free and fair elections. This suppression of free and fair elections is now very well structured through the control of the instruments and agencies of the state. Zimbabwe is now a captured state. It has been so for many years, 40 years to be exact. This means all the agencies of the state, the army, police, judiciary, Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, are controlled by Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF. The role of ZANU-PF in government was spelled out back in 1982 by the Minister of Labour, the late Kumbirai Kangai. He said ZANU-PF is the supreme authority in Zimbabwe. That authority is vested in the Joint Operations Command, or JOC, where the military commanders and the top ZANU-PF officials collaborate in making and implementing policies. Kangai said government and ministers work under the supervision of JOC. In the ZANU-PF administrative structure, the secretaries for portfolios like defense, security, agriculture, education, information, health, etc. have authority over government ministers. In the ZANU-PF administrative structure and responsibilities, the Constitution and Parliament are not independent entities. They are both captured agencies by ZANU-PF. When Kangai made these remarks back in 1982, ZANU was paving way for a one-party state in Zimbabwe. And for 10 years after independence, it looked as if Zimbabwe would abolish all the other parties, leaving ZANU-PF as the only legal political party for Zimbabwe. In August 1990, 10 years after independence, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the late Nathan Shamyarira, confirmed that plans to make Zimbabwe a one-party state were still on the table. But the clarion call for a one-party state, which had resonated throughout Africa, was losing its steam because of economic pressures and public protests. The countries of SADC and other regions were effectively backpedaling from the one-party to multi-party state systems. Mugabe and ZANU-PF were eventually dragged kicking and screaming into continuing as a multi-party state. There were three reasons for this. One was that ZANU-PF was a dominant party in the country, having won 116 of the 120 seats in parliament. Many of the ZANU-PF apparatchiki felt the country was already a de facto one-party state with ZANU-PF in absolute control. There was therefore no need to formally and legally declare Zimbabwe a one-party state. The second reason were the pressures for economic reforms introduced by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank as a condition for the IMF assistance. Structural adjustment programs imposed by the IMF were and still are loans provided by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to countries that experience economic crises. The third reason was countries in the region were all adopting multi-party systems by the 1990s. The multi-party state system was continued, but under ZANU-PF rules, not constitutional rules. And this system continues to this day. The big question for Zimbabweans is, how do you get rid of Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF when all democratic and electoral spaces are closed or closing? So far, Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF have taken the following steps to disenfranchise the MDC alliance led by Advocate Chamisa. They have used the captured judiciary process to deprive the MDC alliance led by Advocate Chamisa of its name, MDC Alliance, granting this name to the lesser-known party led by Douglas Monzora, who has claimed the MDC-T. Deprived the MDC alliance led by Advocate Chamisa of the funding due to it under the Political Parties Finance Act, and granting this money to the lesser-known party led by Douglas Monzora, who has claimed the MDC-T. Use of armed police to deprive the MDC alliance led by Advocate Chamisa of the Richard Morgan House, the headquarters of the MDC alliance. Use of armed police and thugs to block or disrupt MDC alliance rallies. Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF are using COVID-19 regulations as a political weapon to disrupt, sometimes violently, any gathering of the alliance. In a blatant contradiction and selective application of the rules, the same regulations are not being applied to ZANU-PF rallies and gatherings. Monitoring any name change attempts by the MDC alliance led by Chamisa in order to adopt the same and register it with the captured Zimbabwean Electoral Commission. Some shameless ZANU-PF apologist has already patented MDC Chamisa. As things stand now, the MDC alliance led by Advocate Chamisa has no head office or provincial or district offices, no budget under the Political Parties Finance Act, been unable to hold peaceful rallies, is at risk of having any new name thwarted in some way. What this means is that the democratic space for the MDC alliance led by Chamisa is being systematically narrowed and eventually will be closed. It will not be a surprise on election registration day for representatives of the MDC alliance to simply be told they cannot use whatever name they try to register under. Or even worse, for the MDC alliance led by Chamisa's name may not even appear on the ballot. ZANU-PF has a whole bag of tricks and strategies to keep MDC alliance led by Chamisa from participating in the elections. However, to try to please the international community, Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF will try to convince the international community that it is still committed to multi-party democracy by allowing non-entities like Monzora's unpopular MDCT and other parties that are in Poland to participate in the elections. The worst thing is, if the MDC alliance led by Chamisa is disenfranchised from the electoral process, SADC, the African Union, and the international community will most likely express dissatisfaction and do nothing about it. It happened in Uganda elections in January 2021. A young and energetic and very popular rap musician turned politician, Bobi Wine, soundly defeated the incumbent President Yoweri Museveni by a landslide. But the election results were simply switched to give Museveni the victory. Africa knew about it, but what did they do? Absolutely nothing. The president of Kenya, who had sent a message of congratulations to Museveni on the election victory, withdrew that message after massive public discontent. Coming to Zimbabwe, Zimbabweans have always hoped that the United States and Britain and the European Union would lead the international community in applying more pressure on Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF to allow more democratic space for the opposition parties. But the geopolitical situation has shifted dramatically over the years. In fact, in 2013, US President Obama's administration sent former Ambassador Andrew Yang to meet with the late President Mugabe. Obama had hoped this meeting would help facilitate free and fair elections scheduled for that year. It was the last year of the Government of National Unity for Zimbabwe. Ambassador Yang wanted to encourage that spirit of unity, if ever one existed, to prevail into the elections. Ambassador Yang was a very strong and committed friend of ZANU and Mugabe since the War of Liberation years in the 1970s. At a press conference before his departure to Zimbabwe, Ambassador Yang stated that the American public do not know and do not care to know anything about Zimbabwe, and that they do not care about what happens in Zimbabwe, good or bad. He said it was up to the Zimbabweans themselves to resolve their problems and differences. This position is undeniably the same with SADC, the African Union, United Nations, or the European Union. There is international fatigue on Zimbabwe because of other pressing issues like the COVID pandemic, the legacy of former President Donald Trump on American politics, and the real prospect of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The national question for Zimbabwe today has been asked time and again. It is so important that it needs to be asked again. What is to be done in Zimbabwe if free and fair elections fail as a result of rigging by Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF, and the international community remains passive and does nothing? What indeed is to be done in Zimbabwe? There are several possibilities for dislodging Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF from power. One is if there is a significant split in ZANU-PF and one faction aligns itself with the opposition movement under a contractual and binding promise and commitment to allow for free, and fair elections. This alignment could come in form of a broad united front party. When Mugabe was president, there was talk of two factions in ZANU-PF. One was led by Mnangagwa and described as hardline. Another was led by Joyce Mujuru and was described as moderate. As a matter of fact, Mujuru held several meetings with the MDCT president Tsvangirai. There was talk of a possible alliance of the two. In this scenario of a split, the moderate faction in today's Mnangagwa-led ZANU-PF could get a lot of support from the military. Reports say the old guard army chiefs are retiring in large numbers, and they are being replaced by younger commanders who were born after independence in 1980. Their youthfulness makes them more aligned to the youthful leadership of the MDC alliance under Chamisa, as well as the majority of the Zimbabwean population. Regardless of whether they are in the army or police or school or different political parties, young people in Zimbabwe and everywhere share the same hopes, dreams, and ambitions in life. They also share the deprivations in life: poverty, unemployment, lack of property, and other wishes or desires in life. A moderate faction in a split ZANU-PF could see a groundswell of support from a new coalition that will effectively overthrow the old guard and the old order. A sign for a new youthful leadership that is emerging includes Advocate Nelson Chamisa, Fadzai Mahere, Ostelo Siziba, and Makomborero Haruziwishe, who was recently released from jail. Long before Makomborero was released from jail, a group of young people waited outside the jail, chanting and waving signs of defiance. What gave Zimbabweans hope was that Chamisa, Mahere, Siziba, and Mako are but a drop in the ocean of a new generation of more courageous and defiant youths that will stand up to fight Mnangagwa and ZANU's oppressive rule. As Makomborero walked out of jail, many people were very impressed by his looks, show of strength, of character, courage, and defiance. One is reminded of when Nelson Mandela walked out of the apartheid jail. Mako's smile and energetic walk showed that Mnangagwa's notorious jail did not break his spirit. And the person who should be shaking in his boots right now is Mnangagwa. Mako's walk of confidence and defiance shows that Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF will not only have to contend with Mako as an individual, but millions of Makos who are youthful and constitute 75% of the entire Zimbabwean population of 14 to 17 million.
This concludes today's broadcast of Letter from America, a weekly in-depth analysis of the situation in Zimbabwe. Thank you for listening. This concludes today's broadcast of Letter from America, a weekly in-depth analysis of the situation in Zimbabwe. Thank you for listening.
Greetings and warm welcome to you all, our viewers and listeners. just to wish you a blessed day and to thank you for joining us on this episode of Letter from America. The topic of today's episode is Zimbabwe is a captured state. And we have just finished listening to Professor Stanford Mukasa talking about how the army has control over many of the ministries in Zimbabwe, especially the key ones like security, agriculture, and so on and so forth. I would like to take a few moments to just go through some of your comments. Loveness Simon Kashitigu says ngapinda hake mkomana. Love More Kurira says Africa has leadership crisis. Zimbabwe's situation has gone to extremes. That's true. Zimbabwe's situation has gone to extremes. Emily Chukura says our president, Mr. Chamisa, yes, the youth of Zimbabwe are expectant, eagerly waiting for a new and young leadership to take over the reins of the country in the hope that things will change. Joseph Mudenda says, I am ready to fight for my independence. I would like to hear what others think. There is another comment from Joseph Mudenda, which I saw Joshua Mudenda I saw earlier, which reads, the only way to defeat this idiotic terrorist organization called ZANU Puppets PF is the use of revolutionary fighting. So, in short, Zimbabweans must come together and fight for their independence. What do others think about this? Joshua Mudenda thinks that civil war, I think, is the only way to remove ZANU PF. I would like to hear what others think about that. Lokadia Rusike says, we are tired now. Wake up, Zimbabwe. Kelvin Bunga says, Ngonzora and ED will not conquer. So what do you think, Zimbabweans? What is the way forward? Joshua Mudenda thinks the way forward is a revolutionary struggle, taking up arms and fighting for the freedom of Zimbabwe. What do you think? Joe Raphael says the rigging of ZANU means more poverty for Zimbabweans and is going to be worse than now. That is very true. Just try to imagine if 2023 comes and we do not manage to remove ZANU PF, what is the remainder of 2023 going to be like? What is 2024 going to be like? And think about each successive year after that until when we have the next elections, which I believe would be 2028. What would the next 5 years be like under ZANU PF, knowing that they have no will whatsoever to try and develop the country or to improve the life standards of Zimbabweans? Their only intention is to loot. The only reason they want to stay in power is because if they are removed from power, they won't be able to continue looting. So now let's just imagine, what is it going to be like after 2023 if ZANU PF is still there? Joe Raphael continues saying, and every neighboring country is going to feel the impact. And by that, I assume he means that more and more people are going to be leaving the country. And he continues to say, mark my words, this is going to affect not only Zimbabwe, but the whole of Southern Africa. I totally agree, my brother Joe Raphael. And I hope that the leaders in the Southern African region are also aware of this. And I hope this will push them to try and do something to prevent the disaster that will follow if ZANU-PF is not removed in 2023. Membera give more asked tichangosvikawo pano hanzi simba tipirewo inyaya yei. Handisi simba hangu, but I can try to orientate you. This program is called Letter from America. It is produced by Dr. Stanford Mukasa, who is in America. He made his video in which he presented on the topic, Zimbabwe is a captured state. So that's what the video was about. But now after the video, we're just going through comments and just discussing. Max Manyika says a vote of no confidence on ZANU-PF. Lokadia Rusike says being in a foreign land is not a cup of tea. We are suffering. Very true. Most Zimbabweans who are in the diaspora are not there by choice. Most Zimbabweans have left their country in search of opportunities which are very scarce in Zimbabwe at the moment. And many Zimbabweans are actually living without legal papers in the countries where they live. And that complicates life a lot, because sometimes it means certain opportunities, employment opportunities, are not available to them. And the only ones they can access are many times opportunities where they are taken advantage of. So it's very painful for most Zimbabweans having been forced to leave their own country and to go and live like a slave in other people's countries without equal rights, because you don't have the legal papers to be in the foreign country where you are. Many Zimbabweans who are abroad would love nothing more than to be able to go back home. Many Zimbabweans are highly educated, but they are forced to take up employment in whatever fields are available just to be able to make it wherever they are in the different countries where they are abroad. And many Zimbabweans would love to be able to go back home and secure employment in the fields for which they are qualified, and get a remuneration that befits their education. But all of this is not possible as long as ZANU-PF is in power, because ZANU-PF has no ambition at all to create jobs for the young or for any. Their only ambition is to keep looting. And so as long as ZANU-PF remains in power, job opportunities are very likely actually to dwindle, because any foreign companies that might still be in Zimbabwe will find it difficult to continue to operate. As we have seen in the past, many companies have been forced to close operations in Zimbabwe because the environment, the economic environment, the political environment, the infrastructure, all of them do not support business operations. Chances are even the civil, the employment in civil service will dwindle because even they are not getting their fair remuneration. So teachers, nurses, doctors are forced to leave the country and go to countries that can pay them better. So 2023 ZANU-PF has to go. Because if that doesn't happen, Zimbabwe is going to be hell. If ZANU-PF can rig again in 2023 and get away with it, they will know that there is nothing that Zimbabwean people can do to them. And they are bound to release hell on Zimbabweans. If there is anybody who would like to come in and give some comments before we close off for today, I can post the link in comments. All you have to do, Washington Charamba says big yes that Zimbabwe is a captured state with those ZANU-PF thugs. Very true, Washington Charamba. Nyatwa Ngulube says, I think neighboring countries, as much as they feel the impacts, one second. I think neighboring countries, as much as they feel the impacts, must indulge ZANU-PF and conduct a free and fair election in 2023, because for now it's too much. Even a blind man can see. Yes. I think what you're saying is the rigging is obvious. Neighboring countries should by now have seen that Zimbabwe has not held free and fair elections for over a decade now. And I agree. I think neighboring countries should intervene and do something. I'm confident that if neighboring countries should intervene, ZANU-PF will be forced to concede. But as I was saying, if anybody would like to come into this live stream and give their comments, I have just posted the link in the comment section. Please just click on that link and it will admit you into this live stream, and you can give your contributions before we close off for today. All right. It looks like nobody has anything they would like to come in and say. So with that, I would just like to thank you all for joining us today on this episode of Letter from America. I would like to encourage you all to register to vote, or to encourage those in Zimbabwe, if you are not in a position to go home and register to vote, but please do encourage those in Zimbabwe to register to vote. If you have any voter registration queries, please do call the free toll number, which is scrolling across the screen at the bottom of the screen. The number is 08080219. I repeat again, 08080219. I'm just going to play a voter registration jingle which lists the different voter registration centers at the end. So please, if you would like to know which voter registration center is nearest to your location, just watch this short clip that I'm going to play. Watch it until the end, where the different voter registration centers are listed. With that, I would just like to thank you so much for joining us and to wish you a blessed rest of the week. Hope to see you again here on Letter from America next week at the same time. Do stay blessed and take care.
Register kuvota hande kunovota hatiti vanozokopota kutuka vamwe vasina kuvota. Register kuvota hande kunovota hatiti vanozokopota kutuka vamwe vasina kuvota. Presenzi nechitupa changu ndeta check ndapinda tonazi monazi ndoda kunyorejesa masalazi maketo yunzi yakametesa vemushikashika pamusika varikutengesa kuti ugokwanisa kuvota paunoda manya kusekiwo rejesa kuvota. Rejesa kuvota hande kunovota hatiti vanozokopota kutuka vamwe vasina kuvota. Register kuvota.
Register to vote and stand with other citizens in voting to be the change our country needs. Stand in solidarity with others to bring dignity into the lives of all Zimbabweans. Here is the list of the ZEC provincial offices. Please phone for free on 08080219 for more information. In Bulawayo Metropolitan Province, the offices are located at number 16 Centenary Court, Windsor Park Building, 16th Avenue, in Famona, Bulawayo. Harare Metropolitan is at 95 Jason Moyo Avenue, 4th floor Cecil House, in Harare. In Manicaland, they can be found at 1st floor, New Government Complex, corner Robert Mugabe and 4th Street in Mutare. In Mashonaland Central, they are located at 2nd floor, Mutunga Gore Building in Bindura. In Mashonaland East, they are located at number 2, 5th Street, Marondera. In Mashonaland West, the address is 78 Robson Manika Drive in Chinoi. Mashingo can be found at number 10, Hellet Street in Mashingo. And for Midlands, the address is 10th Street, ground floor Government Complex in Gweru. Matabeleland North can be found at 16 Centenary Court, Windsor Park Building, 16th Avenue in Famona, Bulawayo. And Matabeleland South is located at 1194 Big Ben Road, Jahunda in Gwanda. Your vote counts.